Perlo wisdom from Rico and Perlo's House of Exotic NHL Heine's Picks Frolic, a betting show that usually goes on at 10:30 in the evening. You'll see us tomorrow evening for the Carolina Hurricanes, Las Vegas Golden Knights, Stanley Cup final predictions and bets and all of that frolic. But I also do, I'm going to have to title this somehow, Perlo's House of Predictions. Tell me in the comment section what you might think this should be called. All right, today I'm going to be looking at the 2026 free agents and where they may go. I'm kind of doing this on the fly, although I have looked over pretty much all of them and kind of thought of where they might go, what the price range would be. We're going to talk about all of that kind of stuff. And I'm also going to talk about a couple trades that are out there as possibilities, being at the draft. And I'm going to start with that, okay? One of the big trades that are going on right now is with the San Jose Sharks and the number 2 pick. Now, okay, I'm not going to say this is out in left field because San Jose is a team that has a tendency to draft for position. And teams seem to be doing this a lot more. Now, when I say that, I'm not saying that a team is going to take a way worse player because of position. But things being sort of close to equal, a lot of teams actually are starting to do that. Draft by position. And there's a couple of reasons for that. One of those reasons is if you're a draft and development team and you'd rather draft and keep your own picks, which is a great thing to do because you get to build a relationship with those players, you get to talk to them beforehand, and do your interviews before you're picking the pick, get an idea if they're willing, if your city and place is a team is a place that they'd be interested in going to. Some of those things can be like just not a desirable city. It also can have to do with whether a player is interested, and this happens through the agent. Like, say there's a big right winger on the board, and you are stacked up the right side. A player or agent may say to a team, like they can draft whoever they want. It doesn't matter. Like the player still has to go there if he's drafted. But they could say, like, my client wants to be a top line right winger and you're stacked up the right side. I don't think it's a good idea you draft our guy. He's not going to be too happy if he can't play that top right wing. It's going to be throwing a lot of money out the table, and this could cause friction down the road where you'll end up having to trade the guy away anyways. Or you could be like the Winnipeg Jets or some of those other teams that are high on the no trade lists for players, and they say, I don't want to go to Winnipeg. Or like look at Gauthier when he was drafted by Philadelphia. Apparently he told them, I will never play for Philadelphia before they drafted him, and they drafted him anyways. And his thing was I think he's a Pittsburgh boy, and he grew up hating Philadelphia, and he literally hated him so much he would never play for them. And they ended up having to trade him because he said he wouldn't report. He said he wouldn't go to Philadelphia at all. Was he a college guy? He was going to play out. He was so much hated Philadelphia that he would rather play out his tenure in junior or college. I can't remember what it was, and go and become a free agent again. So they ended up trading him to Anaheim. It turned out well for them. They got Drysdale, and if you look at the board where they drafted him, anyone below him, there wasn't really a Drysdale level player there. So it ended up working not too bad anyways. But those are sort of things that happen. Now, Philadelphia could have believed him and said, okay, we'll draft someone else. And I think a lot of these a lot of the times you'll see teams not draft a player, and some of these background things are out there where they do their interviews and realize, okay, this guy's probably not going long term. You can see it if it's an American player, doesn't want to play in Canada. Sometimes you get players that will say that, like in Panarin's case, drafted by Chicago, he basically told everybody way back he was playing for New York. Fox is another one. He was playing for the New York Rangers. So you can draft him if you want, but he's going to go be a New York Ranger somewhere down the road. In fact, Fox did a lot of what Gauthier said, and he played out his college and said, I'm not going there, so you might as well trade me. And they tried to trade him to Carolina. Carolina gave up a second to try to convince him to go there. He's like, you guys don't get it, right? I'm playing for New York, and that's it. And that's where he ended up going. So there's lots of reasons why that can happen. But going back to the San Jose pick, okay, if they think Reed is close to equal to Stenberg, then maybe they got a point. Maybe they go with Reed there, or maybe they decide to trade down a little bit and still pick Reed. It's possible. But another thing that you can look at is if you, like, let's say San Jose does draft a Stenberg, they've got cap. Teams have cap allocation. They actually have capologists. Toronto just fired one. Well, let him go anyways. He could go somewhere else. But they have capologists that break down exactly what you should do for the future and when your cap and what you can do with your cap and all that kind of stuff like that. So I think there's teams that are also drafting based on the idea, okay, like San Jose has Eklund on that side. I think he plays left and right. Who else do they have there? Graf, guys like that. And if they say, okay, I'm going to be paying this and this and this, they can look at it and go, okay, it's not going to fit our cap down the road if we get a Stenberg. If they really want to keep the guys they have, and maybe they go a different direction. So there is reasons why teams kind of shy away from certain positions or what have you. It's a true thing. The BPA, the best player available, is something that's thrown out quite a bit. And no team is going to take a draft pick and tell the public, oh, we didn't take the best player available. None. They're not going to do that. It's terrible optics. It's terrible for the player they picked. They're always going to say they took the best player available. Now, going back to the San Jose pick, I think, and I'm not San Jose, so I don't know, but the drop-off after Stenberg, from what I understand, is significant. I mean, not to say those other players are not going to be very good players, but it's a fairly significant drop-off by most scouts that I've talked to. In fact, not talked to, but I read a lot, and I have specific scouts that I pay attention to that have been very accurate before, like scouts that took Carlson over Fantilli when everybody was on Fantilli, for instance. A lot of those scouts actually have Stenberg over McKenna quite a bit. Basically saying that the floor for Stenberg is higher than the floor for McKenna. McKenna is a big boom or bust and not much in between. That's what they say. Now, they say it's very good chance he's going to be the boom, but Stenberg is a similar type of boom. It's just like looking at somebody like Kucherov or Reinhardt. Now, a lot of people would generally take Kucherov, right? But the floor is like Alexander Degg. There's certain aspects of his game that, even though he's got mass skill, there's another guy back in the day that Edmonton took, in Jason Bond Sr. Great skill. Maybe it's a character thing. Maybe they've talked to him. Maturity, I don't know. And honestly, I'm sitting here right now going, I'm not the scouting guy to tell you who to pick between the two. All I do know is that Stenberg, this is basically what Stenberg is. They say about Stenberg. Even though he's extremely talented now, they feel that he's more coachable than McKenna, and he's got a higher hockey IQ in general. And whatever we're projecting him at, he could even go further than that. He's very adaptable. He has an adaptable game. And they're not saying he's more committed than McKenna, but he just has a coachability that they say that even though right now you wouldn't say, okay, that's going to be a defensive Selke winger. I know Reinhart hasn't won a Selke, but he's at that level. I mean, last time Barkov won the Selke, he came second. Okay. And he deserved that too. He's an incredible shutdown guy, but he has the mind to be able to get there. So I know San Jose is a very analytically driven team, and they are going to be looking at guys that can play very good 3-zone defense. They got Eklund. Smith hasn't shown it yet, but Celebrini was drafted showing that ability, although you don't see it right now in his analytic model. It's probably coming, and it's not all that bad. So anyways, I'm going to go looking Habs, absolutely hockey. Ask who are the Habs going to get in free agency. I'm going to go through all the free agents, and I'm going to kind of predict where they might go or where they shouldn't go or whatever. I should work on ESPN. Okay, thanks. That's very nice of you to say, Maria. So when you're looking at the draft, there's a lot of variables as to why a team doesn't take a player and not take a player. But I didn't want to get into that. This is what I think San Jose will do. This is my lean, okay? I think San Jose takes Stenberg and they use other assets to get D in the offseason. Now, I did see a couple draft predictions from people I respect that showed Stenberg going down as low as 4th. And I found that very interesting. And the reason why they said was that it's a lot of teams now when they're looking at the draft, they look positions are greater value than the actual talent of a player in a lot of ways. Like, for instance, Vancouver, it's believed that they're pretty high on Malhotra, and they want to rebuild by getting centers. Next year in the draft, I believe it's not really center. I thought it was, but not a lot of centers. So if you're looking for a center and you're going to need a center, it is the more valuable position than a winger, right? So you take that into consideration. And also they looked at Reed in San Jose. Now, I don't know what they know. Maybe San Jose has Reed almost as high as Stenberg, and they have a hole in their defensive prospects, that's for sure, and they need defense in general. And the position overranks the betterment of the player, and they take Reed. It's possible. It's very possible. If he goes down to Chicago or Stenberg, I'll tell you, I think fan bases will be hating their organizations for a while. I personally do. If they don't take if Stenberg goes down to 4, it's much like what happened when Demidov went down, and now you look at him in Montreal, and everybody's wondering why the heck. Now with that, Demidov, there's a good one. I heard that he kind of made it clear through his agent that Montreal was where he wanted to go. So these was it Levshinov that Chicago took instead, who, by the way, I still think is going to be a very, 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 very good defenseman. He's only 20 some years old. People are freaking out because he got scratched at the end of the season. Chicago was saying that, they were just going to work on a few things off the ice with him and stuff like that. He's a slick passer. He's learning the game, and he's only 20 some years old. He's got all the tools to be a number one. So don't freak out too much. But Demidov probably wouldn't have been the pick. And if you're calling guys in and going, as you're doing your draft interviews, and you got a agent or the player saying, I'd really, really like to play for Montreal for whatever reason, you may want to go to Montreal, and you go, wow, that's not a guy who sounds like he's committed to Chicago, even if he is the better player. So makes it difficult. And I know if they did take him, they got to take him. Like, he's got to go to Chicago, and then can cross their fingers that he enjoys Chicago and it works out. Or he's like, yeah. When it comes to contract time, he goes off to Montreal. So these are things that they're have to balance out. Yeah, I mean, Brian, before I go on to this free agent thing I'm going to do, I've saw like a few models, and they made a lot of sense. And these are guys that I respect that say that it's very possible Stenberg ends up in Chicago. It's possible too. Again, it's possible that Stenberg said for some reason would like to go to Chicago. If you look at, there. That's right. I forgot about Smith. If you look at they've got Smith on that right side already. But he can play right or left, and Eklund on the other side. I suppose you case that he's looking at it going, if he goes to Chicago, there's nobody on that one, certainly on the right side or the left side, actually, that's going to block him from playing with Bedard. Where Smith has already kind of got his marriage with Bedard, Stenberg would have to play the other side and remove Eklund. But if he goes to Chicago, like, he could play as early as next year if they think he's ready right away. So maybe there's something to that. Maybe he's telling his agent, and his agent's going, look, you can draft him if you want. He'll go there, but his preference would be to go to Chicago. And I don't know, you just hear that as an owner or something, like as a manager. This guy's not showing like he wants to be fully committed to our team. Maybe we should look a different direction. Maybe that's what's happening. All right, we should probably get to it. People are coming here to look at the free agents for next year. I've already been talking for 18 minutes. Thanks for coming in, by the way, Mario, Brian. I don't know who else is out there, but thanks for coming and listening. And I got to set up. We're going to look at this free agents. Hopefully, I'm not all jittery. I tried to do a background, and for some reason, the software can't handle it. I don't know why. Let me share here. Free agents. We'll look at all of them. I won't talk about all of them too much, but like Kevin Hayes, for instance, he, believe it or not, made $7 million last year. I should shout out Sport Track. This is where I'm getting this from. Kevin Hayes, I'm sure he's going to get a small contract somewhere, but I mean, he's pretty much not even a third liner anymore. I don't know. Somebody will give him a shot out there for sure as a fourth liner or something like that. He's a big body. He is a good passer. It's weird with players like him. You can kind of put him anywhere that is just looking for maybe a little bit of offense on their bottom. For some reason, I want to say New Jersey here. They went out and got, can't remember who his name is now, for the Rangers. Or no, not from the Rangers, from Utah last year. And he's not very good. And Hayes really isn't that good. But in a fourth line role, he probably wouldn't be too bad. He was making. He's not going to make anywhere near that now. Oh, not Utah, New Jersey. Wow, okay. Computer's moving slow. Sorry, guys. Bukestad. They went out and got Bukestad. He's 33. Basically because he's a big body. He's not very good anymore. So maybe I could see them replacing him with Hayes, something like that. I know like Minnesota is losing McCarron. I wonder, before I poop on this too much, let me bring up his playing card. Hayes. Let me bring up his card and see what he would do as a fourth liner, assuming he's willing to get paid that low. He was making $7 million. Oh yeah, he's actually a pretty good fourth liner. He's not bad. Even strength defense, as long as he's playing lower competition, Kevin Hayes could be a player for some team. Hopefully you're getting him in no more than $2 million. No more than $2 million, that's for sure. Maybe Montreal. I think, yeah, we can talk about that when we talk about the next player, because Habs Absolutely Hockey asked about some players that maybe I think Montreal would take a look at. And I talked about it last time I talked to you guys. I really like the idea of Anders Lee. He can't see him making $7 million. Montreal doesn't really have that much cap space, but if you can get him at like $3.5, $4 million, I know he's 36 years old, but he had a really good year last year, to tell you the honest truth. I'll show you what his card looked like, and just watching him, you could tell. Remember, I watch a divorce worthy hockey. I don't just look at cards and go, "Oh, this guy's whatever." I watch a ton of hockey, and I know he has been a very good defensive player. Very good, actually. He can pot, 20 to 25 goals. He's big. He drives to the net. That's the big thing, that one of the big reasons why I would say Anders Lee is an option, because if they were going with Anderson to drive to the net, and honestly, Lee's a better player than Anderson altogether. I would be looking to see if you could kind of sell somebody on the fact that Anderson had a great playoffs, when actually he just, St. Louis told him to fly the zone as much as he could to get offense out of the team and to drive the net. And he did, but his overall game isn't very good. So let me see, Anders Lee. Yeah, see, he fell defensively last year quite a bit. But I mean, he just 2 years ago, he was 75% above expected. He did fall defensively last year a little bit, but I think a lot of that had to do with the way Wall was deploying him. Um, he Wall was realizing that um, he didn't have a very good actual defenseman. And I think Waugh did the best he could with that Islanders team. And what he was doing with Anders Lee, I watched it quite a bit, is he was telling him, go into the offensive zone and just hold that puck in there as much as possible. He was trying to have offensive possession as much as he possibly could so the defense didn't have to do as much. And I think what happened, and I watched this over and over again, actually, Anders Lee would do that and just get gassed. And he would have a hard time getting back. You get caught kind of too deep. But it looks like that's what Wall was asking him to do. Because overall in his career, that would have been the first year he's really had poor defensive analytics. So when I'm looking at analytics, I don't just think, okay, this guy sucks now because you see a dip in the red, which is right here, just because you saw a dip in the red. And it was 2 years in a row, and that would have been both years that Wall was coaching. So before that, he was 75% above expected. And I watched him quite a bit last year. I think he's got a lot in the tank still at 35 years old. He's a great character player. The only thing is he's also married to the Islanders, man. Like he's the captain, and he loves playing for New York. So if he's gonna take less, they may keep him there because the Islanders have been doing that shit. Like I don't know, they seem to be trying to be competitive now with older players and bring in younger players through really good drafting and development. I think that's kind of their plan. General manager Darsh there, he's got a mandate, and the Islanders' mandate, they abhor the idea of tanking or anything like that. They believe that you go put out the best you can, and every year you try to make the playoffs and you try to win. That's what they believe. Question is, will they go with Anders Lee? Will they say, you know what, it's been a good run, it's time to go? But if he does, I like him for Montreal. I mean, there's other teams that I would look at as well. At the Edmonton Oil, it depends on the price. I mean, if he's going to go somewhere else, I don't know if he's going to want much less than $7 million. So he's probably going to end up costing at least $5 million. And there's a lot of teams I could see being interested if he's available. The Edmonton Oilers, I think, would be a heck of a place because they need guys that can play 3-zone defensive. Oh, the thing I didn't look at with him was his competition was about 67. Okay. So that was against mid competition. Second line, somewhere around there. But a nice little filler player for Montreal until younger players take over. And that's kind of where I'm going with that. He's that kind of guy. Otherwise, he's going to be a guy that if he goes, he may be looking to win a cup. Now, Montreal just made the Eastern Final, so they can probably sell him that, hey, well, you could win a cup here. You could win a cup here. Edmonton probably could. It depends on the price. I would recommend it. The guy can still skate, man. He's still pretty good. I wouldn't doubt if Ottawa was calling. I'm not sure if he wants, I wouldn't doubt that. They're looking for top 6 guys. Utah could use some veterans and stuff like that. I'm not sure if you'd want to go out west but I could see Utah taking a veteran like that. So there's a couple teams out there. I know Winnipeg, they'll just take anybody. And we'll talk about that as we go down the list here of free agents that are available next year. But where are we going here? I'm going to switch back to the free agent list now. We've only gone through 2. Sure. Okay. Next one we got. Andrei Kopitar's retired. Don't need to worry about him. Trevor Zegras, that's a restricted free agent. I'm not going to do too much on the restricted free agent today. That I hear they're looking at $8 million for 8 years for Trevor in Philadelphia. Connor Bedard, I'm hearing anywhere from 12 to 14 for 8 years. Probably want to get him wrapped up long right now at 20 years old. Do what Montreal is doing, grabbing these guys at 20 years old and giving them market at the time. And with the cap going up, it's going to look ridiculously cheap later on. Jason Dickinson. And for Oilers fans, I would hope to hell that Jason Dickinson, and I'm not going to show his card. I've already showed it before. Take my word for it. Jason Dickinson is right on the top of their list. However, I'm hearing that he's looking for as high as possibly $5.5 million. And they in Edmonton is like they only have like a certain amount of cap space. It's not a lot, like 12 million or something like that. Pretty rich to get a third line center at 5.5 million when they need wingers and all that kind of stuff like that. Hopefully, there's talk about finding a place for Nurse's contract and still getting something in return, and I'm hearing it's possible. I had something with Jari, Howard, and pick for DeBrusk, because DeBrusk is from Edmonton. His father works for the organization in the media. And that would give them a winger and then sign Dickinson. Now, why do I would think that they would want Dickinson? Because Dickinson is an elite shutdown center. Elite. Like 98% above replacement. And their depth, they don't have anybody in their depth right now as it stands, except for Podkolzin, who's playing not depth, he's playing in top 6, that can shut down top competition. And that's just not a recipe. Like McDavid said, we were an average team with high expectations. And I know you're going to say goaltending and stuff like that, but I've said it before and I'll say it again. You get guys on your wings that can play in a system and play a shutdown role. Your defensemen are going to look a lot better than they are. Edmonton's defense isn't bad. They're just really challenged with their weak depth up there. And if you want to see what I mean by that, take a look at the teams that are in the finals right now. Some of the best shutdown players there are on both teams as far as wingers. Stone, Eichel, and centers. Eichel, Aho, Jarvis, Stahl, Martinook. Ehlers this year has been fantastic. Blake is coming around that way. Stankoven isn't bad. Carlson in Vegas. These guys can play all 3 zones and are defensively aware in all 3 zones. All of those guys. Amazing that teams that have those, and I've been talking about it for a long time, tend to make finals. So you can have McDavid and Draisaitl, but if you don't have guys like that, you're probably not going to win a cup. You might get to the finals like they did against Florida because those two guys are so amazing, but it's not likely you're going to win a cup. And a guy like Jason Dickinson is huge for them. Does that mean they're going to get him? No, it doesn't, because I think it's possible that they just can't value a third line center like that. I don't know who they're going to go out and get. You're not going to replace him, but there are a couple guys out that might be out there, like Glass, Sordiff in Washington, that aren't as good, but would be cheaper options. Again, Montreal for Dickinson, I would recommend it. Montreal, they could use a shutdown center like that, no doubt about it. $5 million is pretty rich. Fiend Anderson. Other teams I could see. Colorado is really strapped. I don't know. This is why I think things were very disappointing this year for them, is because they're going to have some guys fall off now that they got to sign McCarr, and it's going to be really this. It's probably going to be really hard for them to be as a good a team next year as they were this year. But I could see Minnesota doing it. I can see St. Louis doing it, although they already have P.S. Suter there. I can see Tampa Bay being on the phone for him. Winnipeg definitely will be on the phone for him, although they've already got – that's not really what they're looking for. Utah could use a guy like that too. You're going to hear a lot of the same type of Anaheim could really look a guy like that. I'm going to do an Anaheim summer video here soon, over the summer. And one thing you'll notice is they have very few players that can play, or at least are not able to right now, or never will be, like Dickinson does. Like, bring what Dickinson does. And they could really, really, really use it. They have the cap space. I would highly recommend they reach out to Dickinson. For sure. They don't have a shutdown center, really. Carlson will probably be like that. Granlund certainly not that. I was talking about that either. I was him. But Anaheim would really good spot for him. Let's go back to the list. Leo Carlson, restricted free agent. I'm hearing about $10 million for him, which is less than Bedard, but way less than Bedard. That's why I think the $14 million for Bedard, I'm not sure. But I'm hearing $10 million or something like that for 8 years, which would be a steal, especially if he improves his defensive game. Boone Jenner. He changed his agent to Jeff Morris, I think the guy's name is. He's taken really, I feel for Boone Jenner, because his whole time in Columbus, he's taken some pretty team-friendly contracts. And now he's getting up to 32. He's busted his ass for this team. They really haven't did anything his whole career. And he went out and got Morris as an agent. And that, when you get Morris as an agent, that means I'm getting the bag, baby. So he's not really a center anymore. His legs have kind of gone for him to be a center anymore. He's more of a winger. You know, he can give you 40 to 50 points. He's definitely high character, no doubt about that. Like very much a leader. Used to be a great shutdown guy. Maybe if he got on a team that plays a little more structured, you'd see that change as well. But I think he's going to go where the money is and where he's going to most likely have a chance to win a cup. He's lived out in the East his whole career. I believe he is American. Columbus Blue Jackets. I'll take a look here. Free agents. Oh, shoot. They don't know the free agent. I hate it when they got. Oh, I know where they got it. Cap projections is what I want. He's going to want to go where he can win a cup. I was talking about today about possibly the Washington Capitals, closer to around where he has basically raised his family. Them looking for some guys at. I think we'll talk another player that I think that they're going to be on really as well. Free. Boone Jenner. Where is he from? Is he from Minnesota? I want to say he's from Minnesota, but honestly, I can't remember. Ontario. Oh, he's from Ontario. Okay. Maybe he wants to go home. Maybe Toronto will pay him a healthy fee there because Toronto is going to, I believe, yeah, he only had 38 points in 67 games last year. Really dropped off. But, I mean, Toronto is, no doubt about it, they're going to be adding. This is not a team that's going to be going into a deep rebuild. I think a character player like Boone Jenner might work out really well for them as well. Hometown guy, they love their hometown guys there. That's a possibility. The only problem is they missed the playoffs last year, so they got to convince them that, hey, we're going for it still. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise. We're going to probably take Gavin McKenna, and we're just going to build around it. And if they do, maybe that's a place for him. I'm hearing $6 million a year for 5 years. He's 32 years old, and his legs are kind of going away already as it is. So any team that takes him, I think are going to be not really desperate, but kind of run out of options. Minnesota might want to try to use him as a center. They got some cap problems until next year. Ottawa looking for a top six. If he's willing to go to Ottawa, he's from Ontario. They have a hard time drawing players. Like they get a limited pool that they can choose from. And, he would be in addition to the top six. There's no doubt about that. I don't think it puts him over the top. And they have to probably have to convince them that they're cup worthy. The Tampa Bay Lightning, maybe. They're probably shouldn't be looking for older players, but I mean, the window's closing there. And if they have the cap space to do it, they also are a no tax state. So maybe they can get them for a little less. The Detroit Red Wings, I think there's going to be a lot of suitors. They're going to need a top six. They're having problems drawing players to Detroit because they haven't made the playoffs in 9 years. And a lot of free agents would rather not go there. So it would take some convincing there as well. Maybe he's just like, I'm going to take the bag. I'm just going to max out. I'm sick of this taking team-friendly deals. I'm going to make some money for my family here. And then he could go to a lot of different places if it's not like ultimately on his list to be going to a playoff team or go to an aspiring playoff team. The Boston Bruins may be interested. I don't know what they're like. If Boston Bruins look at their whole year last year and they look at the playoffs and they still keep banging this drum, then maybe Boone Jenner is a guy. I don't know. Maybe Boone Jenner would be a place that he could end up at. I personally think Boston's going to miss the playoffs next year. No, I thought that last year's too. So Kirby Dach is a restricted free agent. Probably not going to get much more than he has right now. There's talk of him being traded out of Montreal, which I can kind of understand, where he would go. The Edmonton Oilers at $4 million might give him a shot. Like the Edmonton Oilers kind of got to reach a little bit. Coming off that injury, I still say that the guy has potential to be more than what he is. I still say that. More than what he's shown so far because of his injuries and stuff like that. When he was in Chicago, man, I remember when he was a kid, I was like, this guy is going to be something. And then he had those injuries, and I don't know if he's ever going to be able to recover. Montreal will probably give him a qualifying offer, which will put him up to about 4 something, and then try to make a trade. I don't know what he's going to get on the market based on production and making $4 million and having injury issues. Probably not going to be too much. Maybe a second tops for, like Washington Capitals is another team that probably like, I before I go on here, there was another trade that I had heard about, that came out on Twitter that Winnipeg was interested possibly in trading their number 8. And I don't really usually listen too much to these trading top picks because it doesn't happen. But if there was a team that may do it right now with Hellebuyck's, what he said at the end of the year, where he basically showed his frustration and said, I love it in this city, but it appears like most of the teams in the league don't see it the way I do. In other words, they have problems getting players there. And he sort of kind of apparently went to lost it on management after they missed the playoffs, and basically filling in the gaps. It seems he went to them and said, if you don't get this team up to snuff, I want to go. And they can't afford that in Winnipeg. Not a freaking chance can they afford to lose him. They can't afford to do a deep rebuild in Winnipeg. And I know that people are saying, well, they got to rebuild. Hockey-wise, logically, I get it. But this is a team that has a hard time drawing fans as it is. And they don't have like huge sponsorships like Toronto or many of these other teams. So, hey, Real Deal, how you doing? So it's got to be the toughest market to manage a team in. Pretty much anybody with the no trade clause doesn't want to go there. Have a terrible time getting free agents for the same reason. Bitter cold. It's not a sexy city. Just smaller market, high taxes, all of those things going against them. So I had this idea of them trading the one, maybe Lambert, who, good Finnish kid that's played some last year and looks like he's maturing, to Washington for Strome and McMichael. And there are a couple of people on Twitter just slam me for that. Saying, why would Washington do this? Well, I'll tell you why Washington would do this. First of all, at that 8 spot, I think there's going to be a defenseman called Schmitz. And that kid is exactly the profile of what Washington drafts. I also think if you're getting Schmitz at 8, you're doing very well. I think this guy is might be the most underrated guy in top 15 of the draft. He's not a guy that's going to super wow you with offense, but I could see him being a 30 to 40 point, very solid defensive player. His skating and mobility is really, really good. And he's super competitive, and he's big, and he plays good defense and everything like that. It's exactly the player Washington would draft. And from what I understand, he is probably the most NHL ready defenseman for sure, and maybe even player in the draft, besides Stenberg. There's a lot of scouts that say it would be better off for McKenna to round out his game a little more, although I don't think that's going to happen. But especially for defensemen. And so if they were to trade, and Strome, I don't know what happened to that guy the last 2 years, but he used to be like 3 years ago, he was looking like a solid shutdown, elite second pair guy, a second center, although they're using him as their number one. And the last 2 years, it just hasn't. And it's not like I don't think he's a bad player or that Washington would be jumping for joy to get rid of him. But Alex Tuck is out there. I mean, they've got like $30 million in cap space. Ovechkin will probably take something cheap. I think he's coming back, by the way. They love that Ilya Protas kid. I'm not saying should be their number one. Dubois' underlying numbers are fantastic if he can stay healthy. And McMichael, he is a restricted free agent right now, and there's projections he's looking for like close to $7 million for a 45-point player who doesn't play defense at all, and he's very perimeter. No, I don't want it. Now, Winnipeg, on the other hand, they'll just be happy to have warm bodies that can play. And those two guys on the second line, they send that Finn back with the first. They get to show Hellebuyck that, hey, we're serious here. We're building a team that can make the playoffs and do well next year and all that kind of stuff like that. And Washington gets a player, gets to do kind of two things. They're trying to balance both sides. Ovi's there. They want to still try to make the playoffs and hopefully, win a cup. And that will give them shitloads of cap space to get guys like Tuck, maybe General that I just said, maybe a defenseman out there. Like, they got a lot of cap space, and they could really do something here for. And I don't think Washington's ever going to do a deep rebuild. They're too good at scouting. They've also would have another. I believe they have another draft pick or two in the first round if they pick that up. And they're fantastic at drafting. Late picks like Protas and Henrique and, like very, very good at drafting. All right, so let's go back to what I was saying here. Okay, Boone Jenner. I wanted to mention that Winnipeg stuff. Cole Perfetti, a restricted free agent. They're going to re-sign him. He had a terrible year last year, but he wants to stay in Winnipeg, and Winnipeg just happy to have anybody want to stay there. They're going to be very patient with him. Fantilli is going to be interesting what they signed him for. I think it's probably going to be a shorter deal. I think Fantilli wants to show that he can score 30 to 40 before he signs long. He has the ability to do it. His overall game is still really not good. But I'll tell you, that guy is one of the not too many players can score in front of the net where it looks like they don't even, like there's a man on them. It looks like they're not even in a spot where they should score. Like when the puck gets on his stick, that guy can pick corners. So I would see him doing something like 5.5 or 6 million for 3 years, or something like that, and seeing where they are after that. I imagine Columbus would like to sign him long for like 8 right now, before he hits the 30-40 goal mark, and they'll look really smart. But I don't know. If I'm Fantilli's agent, I'm like, nah, hold out, dude. Hold out. Eric Holla, I mentioned that for Washington or for Montreal too. Another guy is like 35 years old. He had one of his best years of his career last year. Really looked good. Looked good when he went to the Olympics too. Looks like he's still got a lot of legs left. I mean, you don't really want to play him in your top pair or top 6, but he's the kind of guy that can rove anywhere. He plays the wing. You could probably get him for 4.5, something like that. I don't know. In this market, who knows? I could be off there, but those are the kind of guys that I'd be looking at if I was Montreal. But I think he could settle in a lot of places. A lot of places, like if he holds out a little bit and lets teams pick and choose, I think Colorado would be somebody that would be interested in, because they're probably going to lose Kadri. They're probably going to have to trade him away. Like they're really, their cap situation is pretty rough there. Detroit's going to be looking for, as much as they can to get into the playoffs. Lots of talk of them looking at Trocheck and stuff like that too. But if they strike out, they're going to almost certainly add. Pittsburgh Penguins, they seem to be like to pick those older players and maybe trade them at the deadline for picks. Los Angeles Kings, like he's the kind of guy that can fit anywhere at 4.5. Fit anywhere. It's just a case of where he wants to go. How many teams really, really want him. But I think there'll be quite a few people. If he keeps his price down in the 4 range, I think there's a lot of teams that would be interested in having him in the bottom 6. Tampa Bay, maybe. A lot of the teams I've been already saying, I could see that as well. Adam Henrique, somebody will give him $1 million to be a 4th liner. I've even heard talk that he may retire. His injuries have really caught up to him, so won't talk too much about that. Patrick Kane. It is not 100% certain that he's going back to Detroit. I know that. He stayed there for a while thinking, okay, this team's getting better. He really is close friends with the Brinkat. That's one of the reasons why he went to Detroit in the first place. But I should share this out. But I'm hearing now he's getting a little impatient, and he would like to maybe go to a contender. I could see him maybe going to Colorado Now, if I remember correctly, he really wanted to stay in the East. He wanted to stay in the East when he went to Detroit. For family reasons or whatever, I'm not sure, but but I'm hearing now that he might be moving on. He might move on. There's some funky stuff about him going to Edmonton. I mean, not exactly what they need in Edmonton, but it would be fun watching him use his hands with McDavid. Overall, I don't think that moves the needle the right direction for them. He can't play defense anymore. He's still a wizard with the puck, but it'd be fun, but I don't think it would be wise for Edmonton to do that. I wonder. Fact of, oh yeah, there's of course he's from Buffalo. Maybe he gives that a shot. That'd be interesting. They got a lot of strong three-zone defensive players there. It would be great for marketing to bring Kane there. Possibly. I mean, they did make, they won 2 rounds. They're looking solid. Gets to go home. Maybe wants to stay out east. Maybe New Jersey Devils could have him up there with Hughes for a small, because they don't really have much cap space. If they can't find anybody on the market, I mean, Kane's offense isn't the worst thing they could do. They had a difficult time scoring last year. I think that mostly had to do with really bad coaching, but does he want to go to a team that just miss the playoffs? Probably not. But if he's going to stay out east, if he does decide to go west, like I said, Edmonton Oilers are a possibility. Can't really see anywhere else where it would honestly make sense. But Buffalo does make some sense. You'd want to go to in Colorado. If he's going to go out west, I could see Colorado. Let me see if I have anybody saying in the chat. Next, we have Alexander Kerfoot. He's a free agent, is he? I haven't seen what he's been doing as of late. Let me bring up his card. I know he used to be a really good defensive center. Fourth liner. He's only making $3 million. I mean, he's going to be good for someone's bottom 6. He's one of those guys that you kind of can fit in. He can fit in anywhere. He can play up and down the lineup. He does have some skill. You can play in your fourth line. He's like that. A guy that's not going to hurt you. You can put mostly in the third and fourth line. There's it depends on how much he wants. There's probably, teams that are going to be interested in filling out their bottom 6 with him. The Edmonton Oilers could probably use him again. I could see Florida doing something like that if they can't get everybody signed. Again, Tampa, he's one of those. He's going to have a kind of his pick as long as he doesn't overprice himself. There's going to be a lot of teams out there that's interested. Probably later on in the summer. Oh, that's Kerfoot there. Where the heck are you guys? Yeah, Kerfoot. Fourth liner, average guy. Not too bad. Yeah, oh yeah, I didn't get into that. McDavid to Montreal. I mean, yeah, anything's possible, I guess. But I wanted to talk about that rumor, actually. McDavid to Montreal. I know Rachel, who's on the Ice Guys now, she's kind of she works for the New Jersey Devils, I believe, and she owns an analytics company as well. She said something way back that for some reason 2 teams he would like to go to are Dallas and Chicago. I don't know what that would be, but I'm pretty positive if that's going to happen, it's not happening until next year. And it would be at the deadline next year, if anything. And I think the return for Edmonton will probably be not too good. I saw something immediately when that rumor popped up, like Suzuki, Reinbacher, and a first. They're not giving up Suzuki. They don't need to. McDavid's not going to have like a big list of teams that he can go to. They're not giving up Suzuki. If they pick him at the deadline, you get him as a rental, and then he signs. Because you're not going anywhere he's not going to sign with. He's got a choice of where he wants to go. I personally think he goes to Toronto. That's it. I think he goes to Toronto regardless, as long as Toronto builds up their team. That's why I say this team's not rebuilding. You're going to see them pick up free agents. I mean, it wouldn't absolutely blow my mind if they traded that first overall for the right package of players that can play right away. But I think they gave Edmonton 2 years. Win or lose a cup, I think he goes to Toronto. Whether they win or lose a cup or not, I think there's a really good chance. Like he grew up a Toronto fan. He's probably dreamed of winning a cup in Toronto. And I remember when he got drafted by the Edmonton Oilers. I should pull that up sometime and show you guys, or you can look at that yourself. When he got drafted, he didn't have a face of yay. I'll tell you that right now. So, assuming Toronto builds that lineup a little bit more, I mean, it doesn't have to be like crazy, but you got to be making the playoffs. And, with Gavin McKenna there, that helps out a lot. As long as he pans out, that would be just devastating for Toronto if McKenna ends up being a flop. That would be so devastating. But I think he ends up going to Toronto one way or another. And I think the return is not going to be pretty for Edmonton. Why? If you're a player that you're going to another team, you don't want to slaughter that team with the return to make it a weaker team for when you go there. Like, I've had arguments with Toronto fans about it, saying, well, he'll give not for about that, but like for Matthews. I've had arguments about that with Matthews, and they're like doing these big trades for Matthews. I'm like, you realize that Matthews can do a Tavares on your ass, right? You realize that. You already saw it happen. You reap the benefits of a guy who dragged his heels all the way through, and the Islanders got nothing, and he just went to wherever he wanted to go. And I do believe there was collusion on that, and they were advising him to do that, so they didn't have to lose anybody in that trade. He says, it was a really hard decision because I love New York so much. Really, you love New York so much that you took so long to make your decision that they got nothing in return. You really love New York that much, did you? I don't buy it. And Matthews could do the same thing. McDavid could do the same thing. Like, he could just, I don't want to be traded. He's got a no movement clause. They could get down to trade deadline time. He's going to say, no, I said I'd give you 2 years to try to win a cup. We're going to go and we're going to win a cup, and then you can trade my rights for a second-round pick or something like that. Like, that could happen, man. Now, if Edmonton absolutely sucks next year at the deadline, he could still do that, but maybe he thinks he's wasting his career waiting around. But that's not going to be an easy thing, that trade. If they're really thinking about, I don't think there's any way that McDavid is getting traded now unless something crazy happens, like they don't get anybody, and he says, you know what, just like he said last year, this is an average team with high expectations. You couldn't or didn't or whatever get anything that I think we needed for us to be successful. I don't want to waste my career anymore. Trade me. And then he would pick a team or two to go to, and then maybe you might be able to get a decent return. Might be able to get something. It's probably going to be prospects and stuff, though. They're not going to ruin their roster unless they have like players that they didn't want in the first place. Like if Matthews wanted to get traded right now, I would imagine it would be Vegas. Go back to Marner. It's close to his home in Arizona. And they would get like Hurdle, much like they did with Marner. That would be an absolute disaster for them. All right, let me switch again. We'll go look at the free agents here. Where the heck are they? I don't know. All right. Let's go down the rest of the Scott Lawton. He could go anywhere. He's one of those guys that just, I mean, I wouldn't be totally surprised if LA keeps him on, depending on how much he wants to get paid. He's only 31 years old. He's an average, kind of a below average third, above average fourth filler guy that has a little bit of offense to him. If he wants to stay in LA and he doesn't, he stays around this 3 million mark, I think they could probably see him do that. Besides that, he could go to Utah. He could go to. He's one of those guys that could fill in anywhere for teams that need depth. I'll go back to the Edmonton Oilers again, as long as if they can't get Dickinson signed, they could try to sign a Scott Lawton. I don't think that anywhere near replaces a guy like Dickinson at all, but would be a little bit of an upgrade in their lineup. Any team that is just desiring a little depth could take him. Depends on if he's looking to win a cup or if he's looking to make money. If he's looking to make money, you can go to probably Vancouver will pay him 4.5. They're Vancouver's paying looking for character guys. Now, talk about going out to get Gallagher and stuff like that. And it's a really good idea for them to do that. Maybe guys that are past their prime, but real character guys. But so to have that change the culture of that room as they move forward in their rebuild, like Chicago did it with guys like Foligno. They tried with Perry, that didn't work out, but they brought in a lot of character, and I think that's a really good idea. Maybe Vancouver isn't a bad spot for him. I wish they showed where players were from here. I don't think they do. No, they don't. I already checked. Colton Sissons. I mean, these are the same kind of guys. Like, keep that kind of money, and anybody looking for a bottom pairing, bottom centers. Barrett Hayton is a restricted free agent, and there's talk with Barrett Hayton now. There's talk of course, Utah doesn't look like they're sitting on their hands. If there are players out there that, and like big players like Matthews and Robertson and all those guys like that, and if they're out there, I think Utah's on it. Like, this is an owner that's like not patient. He wants to make money, and he wants his fans to be happy, and he wants to win. It's not just about making money, but you don't buy an NHL franchise if you're a billionaire person. It doesn't matter if you're a billionaire and you buy an NHL franchise, you don't buy it to sit through a rebuild and watch them lose. You buy it to try to win. And I think Barrett Hayton could be out there. There's lots of talk about Barrett Hayton being out there as part of a trade package to bring in another impact player to Utah. So you can watch out for that. I think he's a good pickup. He's a good third line. He's been kind of misplaced there. They've used him on the first and second line. He was a really high draft pick, but he's kind of settled into a solid third line center, and he's young, so there's a lot of value on that. Danton Heinen, I don't know. I think it's back to Europe for Danton Heinen. Maybe somebody will give him one more shot, but he doesn't provide all that much, to tell you the honest truth. Cole Sillinger as a restricted free agent. They'll sign him to like $3.5-4 million for a couple more years, probably. He's been progressing pretty well there in Columbus. So I think he'll get a good, healthy raise. Carl Youngcroft, league minimum guy. Connor McMichael, we just talked about, 48 points last year, 44 or something like that. I'm just not a big McMichael guy. He's not very good defensively. He's very perimeter. He's not really a guy that's going to get you there in the playoffs. Like I said, I brought up that trade about Dylan Strome, Connor McMichael to Winnipeg for their 8th Lambert and maybe something else too back in return. Something like that would work out well. Maybe they sign him, but if he's looking for 7, I think they probably trade him somewhere. 7 million just is too steep. If they were to trade him for 7 million, if he's wanting 7, I don't know if he's going to get 7. Maybe it leans down more to 6, 6.5. Who's looking for? I could see like maybe Ottawa. If they strike out on other top 6s out there. It's not like they don't really have the pick of the litter, Wanting to look at. They don't really have the pick of the litter, but anybody looking for support, like Colorado would probably be looking for some support players. If Minnesota completely strikes out on centers, maybe. But like I said, I'm not really a big fan. Jonathan Toews, I love Jonathan Toews. It's one of my favorite in the land. But let's face it, he's not very good now, man. I cannot. My computer's frozen. Am I frozen on here? No, it doesn't look like I am. My computer is completely frozen. Am I going to have to end this one? Oh, there you go. Okay, now I'm back. Okay, it didn't freeze. I thought it froze. So, yeah, anybody that's looking, I can see Seattle do. Seattle does weird stuff. They could take McMichael. Maybe they could go McMichael for Wright because they're not happy with Wright. And Washington, and I'll talk about this a little bit. I think Washington's going to be a pretty exciting team to watch in the offseason. Washington likes to take these project guys, these reclamation projects like Dubois, and kind of give them a pat on the back, build them up. And Dubois hasn't been that bad, and I could see them maybe a Wright and McMichael to Seattle. McMichael likes Seattle. They build a weird team, like really strange team. So I could see that. I was just thinking these were all centers, weren't they? Did I not? But the other thing I could see that these were all centers. I got all positions here. The other thing I could see is Pedersen out of Vancouver. Watch out for that. If they were to make a deal, like I said, and they made up some room, they use Dylan Strome, who really is kind of overrated. I could see them being interested in Pedersen in Vancouver. Watch out for that. So defensemen, we'll look at some defensemen now as well. Jacob Trouba, I mentioned it yesterday. Avoid this guy like the plague for the amount of money he's going to want to get. I would not be touching Pedersen. I'll show you why. I'll show you why right now. I don't know if I showed you yesterday, but I'll take a look at it now. He's just not very good. He gets he's got a reputation that he is, but he really isn't. Number one center, top pair, maybe second pair. He might pan out a little better, but last year he just went to shit. His defense has never been good, ever. For years with the Rangers, he's never been good. Kind of a half-decent play driver. But if you're going to pay him top pair money, stay away. I don't mind him at like $5 million, try him in the second pair. But even at top pair, he had pretty low competition. They weren't playing him against top lines. They were giving him a lot of ice time, but they weren't playing him high against top lines. So that's kind of a second pair already anyways. The thing teams like about Trouba is he can play minutes without tiring out. But the minutes he plays without tiring out are really not that very good. So I would stay far, far away from Jacob Trouba. John Carlson is next, and I thought maybe John Carlson would go back to didn't want to do that. We'll go back to Washington, but apparently he wants $9 million a year for 2 years or whatever. He wants $9 million, and that was just too rich for their blood, and I kind of get that. That is pretty rich. Although he's still a top pair defenseman. So he's probably going to get that $9 million. And I think he's an LD. I could see Detroit, instead of going out and trying to get they got tons of cap space if he wants to go to Detroit. I don't know how much he is going to be driven to make sure he's on a contender, but I could see Detroit doing something like that. I don't know if it matters to him to go back east again because he was out east. But 9 million, there's not many teams that really have the kind of cap space to throw that much money out there that are serious contenders right now. Like I said, I thought Washington was going to bring him back on a cheaper deal, but apparently not. Apparently, I'm wrong. Philadelphia may, because with Philadelphia, you say, well, they're kind of rebuilding, but they did make the playoffs. And a player like John Carlson, it's only going to be 1 or 2 years. So if you're filling in a spot for a defenseman to get better until a defenseman gets better, John Carlson's not a bad idea. Kind of reward your players for making the playoffs last year. He's also just a great veteran who's been around, and he can help guys like York and stuff become better offensive players. He's a good vet. So Philadelphia wouldn't be a bad look. I wouldn't mind. I wouldn't doubt if Columbus was on the phone. They're always looking to improve their defense. Dallas, maybe. But they're capped, so I don't think that would happen. They got their own problems with Robertson. So those would be the teams I'd be looking at probably, most likely. For maybe Los Angeles. I mean, their defense is brutal. If he wants to go to LA, he's already in Anaheim. It's just a hop, skip, and a jump over there to LA. So a couple guys there that may make sense for John Carlson. Shea Weber, of course, he's out for a long time. Jason Robertson, I don't know what's going to happen there, dude. I really don't know. Really weird that you would go out and get Rantanen, pay him 12, and then not keep Robertson. That is just perplexing to me. I'm not sure what's going to happen with Jason Robertson. I know like the New Jersey Devils, they have the draft capital to make an offer for him. Maybe not a bad idea for Dallas if they want to, kind of quick rebuild it. They would get 3 first-round picks and a second and stuff like that. And New Jersey seems to find a way to shit the bed. So you can get some maybe pretty high draft picks. Although if you put Jason Robertson in there, you got to convince him to sign on a dotted line first, though. And you got to come up with a number. And they don't really have a ton of cap space. I know Ottawa would be there. I think they have the draft picks available to be able to do that. Does he want to go to Ottawa? A lot of teams that would be in on it, even if they don't have the draft picks, they could just make a trade. Man, it's really hard to let a guy who plays as well defensively, who can score like him, go. I don't know what he's asking. But I just don't see how you don't sign him. I just don't see it. Cap's going to be going up forever. I really think they're going to end up signing him. I just can't see them not doing it. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but I just can't see it. See, we talked about Lee. Evander Kane, like, whoever gives that guy a contract, just forget about it. He's done. Fourth liner, league min, somewhere, don't matter. Tarasenko, he'd still be able to pot him. I don't know. Is he going to, he's not staying in Minnesota. This guy just kind of been making max money everywhere he goes his whole career. And I think that's probably what he'll do is, some team that has aspirations of being like Seattle does stupid shit like this all the time. I wouldn't be surprised if Seattle does that. New York Islanders will probably throw him something because why? I don't know. They think they're good. They went out and paid first-round draft pick for freaking Shen. If you can do that, nothing for Tarasenko, put them in your top 6. Try to make the playoffs, I guess. I can see him maybe again, like Washington's going to be busy, man. Maybe he wants to go play with Ovi for a little bit. His overall game is crap, and he's not much of a player anymore. But he can pot some, give him offensive zone time, and he'll pot some goals. Like I wouldn't be throwing any money at him, but if teams strike out and they really need offense and they want to make the playoffs, he'll land somewhere. He'll land somewhere. But where that'll be, it's Winnipeg will take him. Winnipeg will take him. If they can't make a deal that I said and stuff like that, they'll take him for sure. Like, look at what they did last year. They gave Nyquist like crazy amounts of money because they couldn't get anybody else on the market. So, yeah, you want to freeze your ass off in Winnipeg for $5 million next year? You can do that, I guess. But he'll land somewhere, even though he's 34 years old. Ilya Mikheyev, I really like. He's last year, for some reason, his defensive analytics just went to shit. I think he was just trying to score to get his numbers up so he could get as much money in free agency, to tell you the honest truth. But the 2 years before that, he was very good. I got a feeling if Edmonton strikes out all over the place, Bowman seems to be able to draw these Chicago players in, so I could see him. See him going there. He's not the biggest guy in the world. He's not the most physical guy in the world, but he's really smart. He's a really smart player. And like I said, he wouldn't be, if Vegas has to lose a hurdle, I could see that. I could see Vegas doing something like that. I know he doesn't replace that center position, but he's that type of player that Vegas could use. If New Jersey strikes out, he's like there'll be teams. New York, the Islanders, he can score 20 goals, 25. He's the perfect type of player for them. 3-zone defensively aware kind of guy that they could get with their cap space. Wouldn't be surprised. As trades happen too, it's going to open up holes on teams' rosters. And, Detroit will be probably on the phone if they can't get anybody else. If they can't find like a bigger name guy, I think Detroit would be on the phone there. Tampa Bay wouldn't be bad. Tampa Bay's an analytics team. I could see Tampa Bay. Could really see Tampa Bay, actually. Bjorkstrand's gone now because he didn't work out. He could be like the replacement for Bjorkstrand. I think he'd be a good replacement for Bjorkstrand. Tampa Bay looks good. Toronto's a possibility. They're going to fill that roster up, man. No doubt about it. And they need guys that can play forwards that can play D there in Toronto. So I could see Toronto he's going to have a lot of options. Winnipeg should be going after McTavish. I don't know if McTavish has trade protection, and that's what really makes Silent Sends. Remind you of Billy Lino. Who was Billy Lino? Does he have trade protection in that contract that he signed? I mean, anybody that was willing to go to Winnipeg makes sense for Winnipeg, even though they'll take a chance on the fact that he hasn't improved his skating in years. I'm pretty sure that they'll take a chance on that. Because he hasn't. That's the biggest problem. That's the reason. If he's out there, it's of that. He's got an A on his shirt, so they really believed in him. But skating never improved. they play him on the wing, and I'm not sure he's all that happy about that. See if he's got trade protection. I think he's from Toronto, isn't he? Oh, he's born in Zurich. But anyways, yeah, he never improved his skating. Trade protection. Oh no, he has no trade protection. So yeah, sure, I could see. I could see Winnipeg going over after me. First round pick and a bunch of prospects or whatever that they have. I don't think one player they won't give up is that Solomonson. But besides that, it's an open book. They go to Winnipeg. I mean, he did protection, so they could do it anyway. They probably have no choice. He's a big enough name. Cross your fingers that the guy can start learning how to be skate. He's got hands and all that kind of stuff like that, but he's a really poor skater. But they would probably give it a shot. I don't know. Yeah. Alex Tuck, Washington Capitals all over it. It's kind of said I made that trade. They were in on Panarin, and they don't really need a right winger, but I just think they're going to fill out that roster the best they can. If they've got the cap space, I could see the Washington Capitals being all over that. I would hope that he would sign with Buffalo, but he might be too rich. He's from the Buffalo area. He grew up Buffalo fan his whole career. Is he going to take a hometown discount? It doesn't sound like it. Doesn't sound like it. He can get the bag. Another player that I think it would be great for Montreal, but I think the term and the price will be too long for them. I don't think they want to have a veteran taking up that top spot with all the for that long. And he's going to be paid as a number one pretty much. Yeah, they got Demidov on the right side and Slavkovsky if he plays there. It's a perfect kind of player that they could get. I would say for Anaheim too, but they already got Gauthier. Maybe they move Terry. I'd rather have Kachuk. Terry's a little younger, but Kachuk's a little better. They need those types of players, though, there. That's for sure. I mean, there's going to be a long list. I don't know what that Boston's doing, but I could see them doing something like that. Like they're never going to rebuild. So I could see that. Columbus will be on the phone. I don't know if he wants to go to Columbus, but they would be on the phone, no doubt about it. Edmonton, if they use every single piece of their cap space and they just take one big swing, he would be excellent for Draisaitl there on the right side. They'd still have defensive depth problems in their bottom six, but at least they would have one guy that can play. Wow, they have more than one guy. Like McDavid can be an extremely good shutdown player if he's not playing from behind all game, and Draisaitl as well. I've heard Seattle's name out there, and who knows with them? That could very well be. Does he want to go to Seattle, team that doesn't really have all that much prospect? After grinding your way out with Buffalo, finally making a push, it's just so hard for me to think that he doesn't take a little bit of a discount, maybe some extra term or something, and stays in Buffalo. They give Benson a bridge deal, keep the band together type thing. But if not, I know I'm almost positive Washington will be on the phone. They're going to be on the phone with any big name right now. Rasmus Anderson staying in Vegas. I don't know how they're going to do it. Don't ask me. No idea how Rasmus Anderson's going to stay in Vegas. They're going to somehow get rid of that Hill contract. Vegas just does what they need to do. They get her done. Hurdle probably, I don't know, they're going to find a place for Hurdle. Center, teams are desperate for centers out there. There's a lot of teams that are desperate for centers out there. You never know. Like they might be able to find some team desperate for a center. Washington, if they trade Strome, Minnesota. You can go to Montreal. Wouldn't be my first choice, but pretty expensive on a long-term contract. But they're going to do it pretty much. And apparently they love Rasmus Anderson. He's good friends with Noah Hannafin. So he'll be staying. Michael Bunting, man, he's slipped. He has slipped more than just about any player. Again, he's going to be one of those filler guys that just gets his 3.5 and you can go anywhere where you can work him up and down the lineup. I personally wouldn't really touch him myself, but any team that's looking to fill a hole in their lineup will be calling him late, saying, "Can you come for 3.5 million or something like that?" Mason Marchment won't. I just saw an article today trying to remember what the guy's name is, but it doesn't matter. Mason Marchment has all 7 Canadian teams on his no trade list, and he's got a 10-team no trade list. So he doesn't want to go to Canada. And he's been playing in markets that have been like in Dallas, Seattle. He's been playing in markets that don't have income tax. So that doesn't leave too many places, but from what I understand, he's testing the market. And if he's testing the market, I mean, I thought Montreal would be a great place for him, but like I said, he won't go to Canada, so not a great place for him because he's just not going to go there. I think Utah would be a great place. Did he play in Utah? I don't think so. Utah would be. They need some size up there in Utah, for sure. They're probably not going to sign Yamamoto. We'll be talking about him in a second when he pops up. They have Daniel Boot and them, honestly. They're probably going to be trading a lot of young guys that they have coming up. There's no patience right now. So I don't know what he's going to get. Like I heard something like, and I really think they could use some size with in Utah. So the Utah would be an option. Once you remove Detroit, would be a big option. Detroit will probably be all over that. They need a winger on that top line. They got that Finney kid in there, and Yzerman's going to be on the phone all summer looking to fill. So he gets to be in the United States, and he's from the Toronto area, so he's still close to home, even though he doesn't want to live in Canada. It's probably because of tax reasons. But definitely Detroit will be all over that. Whether league minimum, probably stay in Minnesota or retire. Andrei Kuzmenko, I hear Vancouver's all over bringing him back there. Not really a fan of him as a player. He's kind of a torpedo dude. He could go anywhere. I don't. It depends on if he wants some money. If he wants to cut his contract and play for a contender, he'll probably be able to find some teams out there that'll take him that are more contenderish. But if he's wanting that kind of same money or more, he might. He's 30 years old. Probably not a bad idea to go back to Vancouver. They liked him in Vancouver. He'd be a good fit. You can go there, get the money, and then if it doesn't work out, they trade you. They'll say, "Yeah, we'll trade you to a contender." I don't know what his family's like or anything like that, but if he doesn't like moving around and he wants to make as much money as possible, Vancouver wouldn't be a bad spot to do it. Like I said, Ottawa's going to be in all these top 6 guys if he wants to go there, if they want to pay the money for it. I personally wouldn't. I wouldn't touch him. Toronto's looking for filler players. All those kind of guys, teams that are looking for filler players until some young players come up, or just looking for some depth, offensive depth. We'll use a guy like that. Peter Mrazek probably should retire. I already talked about Dickinson. Simone Nemec, to talk about the trade talk that's going on. Apparently he asked for a trade. Then he said his agent said he didn't ask for a trade. All I know is that they picked up Maida from Florida, who is a huge analytics guru. And if he looks at the analytics for Nemec, it's not looking good. So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what he does because the kid's got skill, tons of skill, but his overall game is just, but he's only 22. But he looks like he's going to be a straight offensive dude, like just straight offensive power play type guy. Honestly, I couldn't tell you where he could end up. Depends on, he's a restricted free agent making $4 million. How much do they want to pay him? My gut says he'll be traded, but I really don't know where he would be traded. I don't know. It feels like a Seattle thing. Like Seattle, Trouba. I forgot about Trouba. I could see Seattle getting Trouba. They signed the weirdest free agents. Lindgren is terrible. They signed him up. He's not very good. I could see them doing that for some reason. Like I could see Seattle doing just about anything. John Klingberg, no defense at all. You want an offensive power play guy that, can play down in your lineup. And cheap, a cheap power play guy that can play down in your lineup. These are all kind of players that whatever falls off the tree. But who's a team that would consider a guy like Klingberg? I think he should just stay in San Jose, but it sounds like San Jose's moving off from him. Vancouver may give him a shot. Like he's gonna be going to those fringe teams that need to fill a lineup spot. Calgary, teams like that. I don't think there's going to be a huge line for Matt Zuccarello. I mean, he 4.1 million, 38 years old. You got to figure Minnesota will find a way to sign him. But if he doesn't sign there's a myriad of teams that will be looking at him. Again, Ottawa, any team that's looking for a top 6, he did play well. He's a good passer. I go back to the Washington Capitals. I wouldn't mind that. I wouldn't doubt that they would be looking at him, a passer, a guy that can feed Ovi. And they got a short window of opportunity here in Washington. I think Washington is going to make a lot of moves. Victor Arvidsson, I think he signs in Boston. He kind of found a home there, played really well for them. I bet you they re-sign him again. It'd be weird if they didn't re-sign him, to tell you the honest truth. it would be kind of weird. What are you doing if you don't sign an Arvidsson who played so well for you all year long and you say that you're not rebuilding or whatever? I don't know what you're doing if they don't. If they don't, again, he's going to be any team looking for. Well, he had a good year last year. I could see Pittsburgh picking him up. I could see, no, not Philadelphia, but Washington again. Detroit's going to keep on filling that roster up. Winnipeg will be on the phone for sure. Winnipeg will be all over it. But if he wanted to go to Winnipeg, he probably could have already went to Winnipeg. Eli Toivonen, I've heard Toronto is heavy on him. Good defensive player, can put up offense. Kind of guy that they're sort of should be looking to build their team with. He's only 27 years old. He's very good defensively. He's not a big guy. But this time, don't make the mistake. Find value guys like this to play in your lineup that can play D. You're going to need it. It's the reason why they weren't able to do anything in the playoffs. You got to have it. So I could see them doing that. He's only 27. I'm going to say he goes to Toronto. I think Toronto re-signs Michelli, depending on how much he's asking for. He's only 25, and I was surprised to see he improved a lot last year. Pretty good average guy. He's a restricted free agent, too. They own his rights. I'm pretty sure that's where he's going to end up. Kirby Dach, like I said, will probably be traded. And now you're getting into some guys that Perfetti's going to Winnipeg will be signing him for sure. Mario Ferraro, I heard he's looking for 6. Just feels like a Ranger pickup all day to me. Just feels like a Ranger pickup all day. 27 years old. They'll sign him for 6. Had one of his best defensive years last year. He's really good. He's not one of the best guys, but with the cap going up 6 isn't bad, and it just feels like a Ranger pickup for me. Ian Cole, I didn't notice he was going to be a free agent. 37 years old. I mean, he's still serviceable. I bet you he stays in Utah. If not, there's one for the Canadians. Ian Cole down in your bottom pair. He's played for everybody. He doesn't seem to matter where he goes. That would be a good one. Anybody looking for bottom pairing defenseman, Ian Cole would be still really good at 37 years old on a short-term deal, fills a spot until the young players come up to take a spot. I like that. Trevor Van Riemsdyk, I mentioned that before. I also like that from Montreal. This is another one that I think Winnipeg will be on the phone for because he is getting older. They might be able to pay him a little more. So, yeah, Winnipeg's always got to pay a little more. So if you got guys like Trevor Van Riemsdyk, he's not going to be all over everybody's list out there. But he's very serviceable, even at 35 years old. I could see Dallas taking a shot at a filler as a filler. They had problems on defense, but like I said, they got so many problems with their own free agents. I don't know if they're going to go out and get anybody this year. Colorado could use him as a if they don't get Kulak, if he stays in that 3-4 million range and he wants to go win a cup. Colorado would be a great place. Florida, I could see Florida using him in the bottom pair. He'd be a great bottom pair for them, and I'm sure he would go to Florida. Got a chance to win a cup. That's a really good one there, Van Riemsdyk. Let's see if we'll go through one that I missed. Andrew Peak, I think he'll go to Florida. He's from Florida. Bottom pair money, probably. It just spells Florida to me. Pretty good defense player. Spells Florida. Stuart Skinner, I heard he's going to get $4 million, and I've also heard that Ottawa is the one going to give it to him, and he's going to go there. to play with Allmark. He's not that bad of a goaltender. He's not great, but I mean, in Edmonton, where they had all those defensive issues, wasn't fair. Pittsburgh fared much better. I'll do one more here, and I think I'm going to move on. But I'll talk about Anthony Mantha. Anthony Mantha is a guy who, over and over again, he's had these big years in his career, gets the bag, and then he's gone. He's not going to get it in Pittsburgh. Somebody is going to give it to him. And I think it's going to be the Columbus Blue Jackets. Just feels like a Columbus Blue Jackets move. Not a lot of players like to go to Columbus. They're high on the no trade list, as I was talking about before. Like, they're always in the top 5 of players that don't want to trade. There are cities that don't want to go there. But Mantha's always been a guy that he's just took the bag wherever he's gone. Maybe he goes back to Detroit. But every time, he's probably going to get $5 or $6 million a year. And then he either gets injured or he falls off the map or both. Every single time. I would totally stay away from him. All right. That's my full 42. I went 2 hours here, my friends. But I have fun. I like talking hockey. Probably nobody will watch this shit besides the people that were out there right now. And thank you for coming and watching. I had a lot of fun. I'm going to do a puck in deep now about the series in Colorado, of course, the Vegas and Carolina series. And you know, tomorrow night we will be doing our series preview, picks, and picks for the game tomorrow night. So check us out. JD should be there. Statmaster J, Parlay Dre, and I tomorrow night will go over the series, the finals, the Stanley Cup finals, series picks, and futures and picks for the game tomorrow at 10:30 on this channel. Thanks for coming out, everybody. Okay, bye.